Future reference, producer Joe, I need a turban. I would love a turban in season 3, but we'll leave that alone. But I like this thing. That's a genie turban, right? Or whatever it's called. Anyways, so let's just say I've been working on a script, and then when I was so hard at work, my pen started like catching fire. The words started becoming etched in stone. My hands just started writing because of prophecy, like the finger on the wall in Daniel's prophecy or Nebuchadnezzar's dream, whatever, all that stuff. You get it. You read the Bible. Anyways, so basically, then Commissioner Brett Fruit came to me and told me, "Hey, Mike, I'll tell you who's going to make the playoffs." But he didn't do that in the way you're thinking, because you're like, "Mike, well, you don't tell the commissioner," and you're right, I don't. But I do remember the video where he said goaltending is going to matter in the mid-season conversation with Ashley Docking and Commissioner Brett Fruit. Without further ado, we already know the Toronto Rock, the San Diego Seals, and the Albany Firewolves have clinched a spot in the playoffs. So the rest of it is easy for me. Yes, I am predicting the Georgia Swarm, the Halifax Thunderbirds, and the Buffalo Bandits are guaranteed playoff spots. There's the ball. So you see, it's obviously, I'm not just taking this out of thin air. I obviously have a crystal ball. Here's a picture of me in front of the crystal ball with a turban. So basically, I think it's undeniable these 6 teams are in. We're like, Michael, this is the playoff predict. We're like predicting this thing. Like, why are you only giving us 6 and there's 8 that make the playoffs? You're right. I've got the other 2 as well. So I believe there are 5 teams that will contend for this 7 and 8 spot. I think Philadelphia obviously is done. Las Vegas is done. Colorado Mammoth are not going to win enough in time, and everything has to go right in order for them to make it. Vancouver, again, too little, too late. Although Vancouver could be very spicy. I know Evan Schimenauer also posted that he found a scenario where the Vancouver Warriors could still be a 4 seed. Kind of like what I do with the Colorado Mammoth. Well, he could found a way to do that with the Vancouver Warriors, which I also did not know was possible. Unified standings are great, but you knew that. So then my point is, Calgary, Panther City, Saskatchewan, New York, and Rochester, the 5 teams that will be duking it out for the playoff 7 and 8 spots. I believe the 7th one is easier than most people think it is, and I might get hate for this. I think the 7 seed is going to be Panther City. I believe Nick Damoud has had a really good season. Callum Crawford is very good. Jonathan Donville suddenly can score goals along with pass the ball. Phil Caputo. Will Malcolm is a beast. This team is full of amazing talents. Or I want to say amazing talent on paper, but if you look at it as a whole, the roster is very stacked up with just guys who will get things done. And then Panther City reminds me of the Miami Heat, actually. My Miami Heat, I call my Miami Heat on former show. If you don't know, it's okay. Basically, my favorite team in the NBA, they got some good players, but like nothing stands out like a LeBron or a Steph or a Damian Lillard or a Giannis. What does stand out is their chemistry and their toughness. And it makes no sense. People always say heat culture is a fallacy. They say that cannot get it done every single year. And what happens year after year in the NBA? The Miami Heat, without a star player, really, they have Jimmy Butler, but does that count? How many times have the Heat crawled their way and upset teams when they had no business doing so? Panther City has won enough games and has been in enough really good games with really great opponents to show us they are going to make it. And I believe the win against Buffalo was their ticket to the playoff punched without it being mathematically so. That showed me they got that extra win, that 7th or 8th win that got them to a mark that some teams may not be able to get to. The 8th team was really a struggle for me between Calgary and Rochester. I think the Saskatchewan Rush have had far too little time to make this work. I think their schedule has been absolute hell. I think Frank Giuliano has been really good in the regular season, borderline great. It does not mean the Rush will just march in. They're going to fall when you least expect it. I'm sorry. It wouldn't surprise me if the Rush are the team that makes it, but I don't think they will. I know I can rely on Christian Del Bianco. I know I can rely on the Rochester Nighthawks offense. But which of those monsters makes it? Rochester. I do not trust the Roughnecks' consistency this year. I think they've been very up and down. I don't think they know what their identity truly is. I think when things are so close as they are now, where I'm talking about tiebreakers needing to happen instead of just head-to-head, when those things are so close, these little details, these little intricacies, they matter. So my thing is, I think Calgary, one day they're scoring 15, the other day they're winning 10-9. Who are they? Del Bianco, I'm not saying he's been the problem. I'm saying their defense transition has been so hit or miss. That will bite them when it matters most. And they've also lost too many games to start. I also believe Rochester, I know for a fact they're an offensive shoot-at-will team. Connor Fields is a walking hat trick. Ryan Smith, Lanchbury, Thomas McConvey, Hutch Craft has been stepping up when he needs to. I think Rochester, I can count on their identity. They can hang with the big boys. They hung with Buffalo twice. And Buffalo took down everyone's favorite champion, the Toronto Rock. So I believe Rochester, I can trust them more than Calgary. I can trust them more than the inconsistent Saskatchewan Rush. I can trust them more, and here's where I get to the Riptide and Jeff Teets. The New York Riptide are going to fall apart from within. And not necessarily any locker room issues. I'm saying when you know dang well in your heart of hearts, playing in Long Island does not matter. Fans have never cared, and now they really don't care. You cannot tell me that is not eating at their brains right now. Folks, the New York Riptide, I'm not saying that they did not know. I think they knew probably back in when the season started that they were trying to relocate. I don't think Jeff Teat was just going to sign there if he didn't know something was going to happen. He might have even known it was Ottawa. I don't know that off the top. I'm telling you, it has to be a possibility. Ever since the Riptide broke that news publicly, well, I'll put it this way. Let's say they knew about the news to start the season. They started the season 1-4. Then they win 4 straight. But what happens after they win 4 straight and get off the monkey off their back? The NLL announces, by the way, coming up to this game against Toronto Rock in Montreal, the New York Riptide are going to they're going to Ottawa. Come on now. Very much agreed, Bigo Domini. Box across means nothing to Long Island. Thank you, producer Joe / Bigo Domini. I'm kidding. So basically, after the public found out, the monkey came back. They lost to the Rock, lost to the Mammoth 18-10, lost to the Firewolves 14-8, beat the Dogs, but who hasn't beaten the Denver Dogs this year? Lost to the Rush, barely beat the Rush. Folks, I'm telling you right now, Riptide are going to fall apart when it matters most. I think the Rush will not have enough consistency. The Riptide will not have enough mental fortitude. The Roughnecks, I don't know who the crap they are. I know who Panther City in Rochester is. That is who's going to make the playoffs. That is your playoff script. You're welcome.